If you're watching this on Moodle or floated by on YouTube, a very warm welcome. My name is Rory Lees-Oakes, and in this presentation we're going to look at key ideas in therapy, and in particular the counselling process, or as it's better known, the counselling hour, which is indeed a 50-minute hour, which may be a bit of a surprise to those of you who are viewing who've not in the world of therapy or not had therapy. But the therapeutic hour is actually 50 minutes. And the reason for that is that the first 5 minutes of the hour allows for the client to settle in. People have got to take the coat off or sit themselves in the chair. Counsellor may make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee to the client, and consequently that takes about 5 minutes, and it allows the client just to get themselves ready to engage with the material. As the session comes to an end, well, there's 5 minutes for the client to prepare themselves to engage in the outside world. Usually, hopefully, therapists give a good indication the session's coming to an end, and that's about 5 minutes from the end. Clients start to get themselves ready to leave, and that might be booking another appointment, may even be a payment if there's a payment for the therapy, and just to get them prepared and prepare themselves to re-engage with the outside world. So 50-minute hour. So what happens in that 50-minute hour? Well, the counselling process could be seen to be divided into thirds. The first third is exploring, the second is understanding, and the third is action. Now, I have to say, this presentation is a kind of idealised version of a therapeutic engagement or a counselling skills engagement. I have to say that sessions don't always go like this, but we will see there's a definite beginning, middle and end to the counselling hour. So let's have a look at exploring. Well, in the exploring phase, it's possible that it's a beginning. It is a beginning. And within that, there will be contracting, allowing the client to make a contract with the therapist for things like confidentiality, number of sessions, dates of sessions, modality of therapy, which modality the counsellor's practicing in, possibly in terms of how many sessions. They might want to discuss how many sessions there are. The reason for that is that it gives the client a transparent view of what they're going to be getting, and counselling should be about being honest and being transparent. So if it's a first session, the exploring phase may be about contracting. A big skill at the beginning, or all through therapy really, is attending, and that is making sure that as a therapist I am focusing on the client, making sure that I am listening and being attentive and offering the core conditions of empathy, congruence and unconditional positive regard to make help the client feel valued. And that's a big part of offering a therapeutic engagement. And the skill of attending is making sure you put your focus on the client. The skill of silence is a really useful skill for therapists to have, in that clients want to be heard, and they want to speak. They don't want a therapist who interrupts them or doesn't, or disregards what they say. So silence is useful, and it does put occasionally the kind of onus or responsibility on the client to think about what they want to bring. And it can be unusual for some clients to be listened to by a therapist. Reflecting feelings. Well, occasionally clients will speak to me about what's going on in their lives, will talk to me about things that are happening, and occasionally I'll pick up that there's not only what they're saying, but also the emotions they're using to convey those feelings. So you could have 3 or 4 different versions of "I'm going out to the pictures." Someone might say, "I'm going to the pictures. I'm going to the pictures. I'm going to the pictures." So you can see that just by the emotion of it being said, it's possible for me to pick up on how they really feel about it and reflect that back. Paraphrasing. Well, that's a useful skill. Paraphrasing is reflecting back in your own words, or in my own words as a therapist, what the client is saying, so they can hear what they've said and check out if what they're saying and what I'm understanding they're saying is correct. It's a very powerful skill, and it allows me as a therapist to get closer to the reality of my clients. And sometimes clients will say, yes, that's right, and other times will say, no, it's not like that, it's like this. So paraphrasing is a really useful skill. Focusing. It's possible that clients will come in with 4 or 5 different issues, and as a therapist it's not possible for me to work with all of them. So I usually ask which one of the difficulties a client's having, which one's the most pressing, and perhaps we can work with that and contract to work with that. And it might be that once there's a bit of an understanding of what's going on around that issue, the other issues may very well start to kind of get resolved, and that does happen. So that's a skill of focusing. It's also used to focus emotions. So it might be that I might ask a client, how does that feel when you say that, to try to get a client to get in touch, I guess, with not only what's happening but the feelings around it. The next phase of the counselling hour is understanding. And in this, it's called a middle to counselling. There might be immediacy. Now, immediacy is where I share a feeling maybe to what the client said. So, for instance, the client said, I've been in a car crash yesterday and my car was written off. The feeling that might come up for me was, well, that feels really scary. How does it feel for you? And the client might say, yeah, it feels scary for me, or they may have another feeling. So immediacy is the immediate feeling that comes up within the therapist, or indeed myself, when I'm working with a client. Self-disclosure. You have to be careful with self-disclosure. I have to be careful with self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is where I share a little bit of my experience with a client. And perhaps one of those may be a client says, I've been unemployed and it's very difficult. So I'm unemployed at the moment, it's very difficult. And I might share and say, actually, I've been unemployed and I know it can be really tough. I wouldn't say any more than that, and I certainly wouldn't go on to expand on my experience of being unemployed. This is the client's hour. This is the client's time. It's not for me to share my entire life story. But sometimes a little self-disclosure on the part of the therapist can be useful, certainly in person-centred therapy, for the client to realise that therapist's human too, and I guess the client can get an appreciation that, you know, that the therapist understands where they're coming from. Confronting discrepancies. Occasionally clients will say, I'm not really good at that, and I'm hopeless at this, and this is going wrong and that's going wrong. And then they'll go on to tell you a load of things that are going right in their lives. And sometimes confronting discrepancies is about reflecting to my client, I hear you say this isn't going right, and you're not very good at this, and you're awful at that, and you feel you're hopeless. Yet last week you told me how successful you were at this and that and the other thing. So it's about gently challenging discrepancies in clients' experience, and it shows also that I'm listening to the client. Recognising patterns. Occasionally people get caught up in patterns of behaviour that aren't useful in their lives, and what might happen is sometimes the client will tell me a story that has a beginning, a middle and an end that's repeated throughout their lives. Could be relationships, and I might just reflect back and say, it seems like a lot of the relationships you've had have gone this way, and it allows clients then to think, oh, maybe that's the case, and try and understand what's going on for them. And that's quite important, because clients do come to sort out and to kind of get an idea of their issues. And the same with identifying themes. That's the same type of thing. Recognising patterns and identifying themes are the same thing. Finally, in the ending phase, summarising. A summary is a larger paraphrase, and it sums up the entire session really in a concise way, allowing for the client to realise that they've been listened to. They can check if what you're saying is correct and kind of say, well, actually, no, that's not quite it. It's like this. So again, it's an opportunity for me, the therapist, or the person who's doing the therapy, to get closer to the client's reality and world. It also allows the client to evaluate. I might say to clients, I wonder what you're left with at the end of this session. And they may say, well, actually, now I've talked to you, I kind of realise that this is happening or that's happening, and if I do this, this happens. And sometimes clients set their own goals. They may go away and say, actually, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to avoid doing that, or I'm going to say something to that person. And it can be a very small thing that appears very small, but to clients is used. It might be just going to talk to someone and saying that you've not talked to, and saying, actually, we're not getting on very well, and I wonder why that is. And this could have been a really big difficulty for the client at the beginning of therapy. I wouldn't ask clients to set their own goals, but sometimes they do it of their own volition, I guess. So that's the counselling process. It's action, exploring and understanding. If you want further information, well, if you're watching on the VLE or Moodle, click the resource tab here. And if you are watching on YouTube, try to watch the presentation on counselling skills. And finally, thank you for watching.